NEC today took a presentation from the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. Their main focus is fair taxation, responsible borrowing, and sustainable spending. The Council acknowledged that the country is underperforming on all indices as it regards yields from major revenue sources, also tax to GDP ratio, and so on. So after extensive deliberation, NEC noted the need for sufficient alignment between and amongst the stakeholders for the proposed reforms. So Council therefore recommend the need to withdraw the bill currently before the National Assembly on tax reforms, so that we can have wider consultations and also build consensus around these reforms for the benefit of the entire country.
All right, so there you go. A lot has since happened ever since then, but as we also did notice here, some of the key elements of the 2024 tax bill that was sent to the National Assembly, 4 components of that. So you see that the Nigeria Tax Bill, Nigeria Tax Administration Bill, Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, and then the Joint Revenue Establishment Bill. So all of those make up that bill that was sent to the National Assembly.
There are 4 bills in all.
Yeah. So, and then the thing about all of that, yes, there's been a lot of controversy, of which much as the Northern governors and NEC did recommend that be withdrawn. The presidency responded and said, look, the bill is before the National Assembly, so you can make an input. You could go to public hearing if you feel strongly about it. And then it still rages, different response from different quarters. So this morning, we're joined by Senator Ibrahim Shekarau, former governor of Kano State, former Minister of Education and Chairman, League of Northern Democrats. My apologies. League of Northern Democrats. I can't forget that. Good morning and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. How are you? It's a pleasure meeting you.
Yes.
Good morning, my sister. How are you doing?
Good morning, Your Excellency. So, it's good to see you again.
Just a quick follow-up. The last time you came, thereafter you proceeded to Ogun State for consultation and several other places. We heard his recommendations, how he thought that make it broad-based if you really want to fix this country. But if you make it the regional base, it appears it's going to communicate a different narrative, which may be misinterpreted. Yeah. How is the League responding to that?
Well, I think, thank you very much once again. The visit to our leaders, of course, one of them, as you very well referred to, was former President Olusegun Obasanjo. He welcomed the idea after listening to us, after listening to our argument, our objectives, our focus. He commended our effort, but as a nationalistic person, he said, look, this problem is not limited to the North alone. Why can't you broaden your contacts and reach out to your colleagues up in the other part of the country and come up with a National League of Democrats? And that was a very wonderful suggestion. We came back and that is already on the table before the leadership of the League and is being considered. And we've already started reaching out to some few names, and we are registering the same understanding, and we are receiving the cooperation, and they applauded it. Very soon, we will come up with what he suggested. And he in fact went further to say that any day you come up with a national League of Democrats, come back, I will be the grand patron, because he said anything to break up this country, he will use his last blood to defend it. He is a Nigerian. He is proud to be a citizen of Nigeria, and he is not prepared. And a number of them that we reached out to express the same thing. So I think this will soon be on board. And we assured him the fact that we call it League of Northern Democrats, that did not mean we are only concerned with the North. We just felt, people say charity begins at home. We wanted to look inwards and see what our problems are, and probably share it with colleagues all over the Federation. So it's already on. We are on to that. We accepted the challenge. We accepted his counseling, and we are on to that. By the grace of God, we'll get to that.
There are several people who are frustrated with the status quo, and they feel that a lot needs to change across board. So how do you think it's possible to get people, quote, of like minds into this national league, and then they pull together with the same ethos and ideology and really make an impact without all of these fault lines somehow finding its way and derailing the objectives?
Well, Chamberlain, we are very aware of the fact, and we are conscious of the fact that it's not going to be an easy journey. It's not going to be a matter of tomorrow, 1 year, 2 years. I mentioned the other time I came here. It's not going to be easy. And like any other thing, when you come up with such a very strong position, those whose food will be punctured, so to say, will definitely want to fight back. Just as we say that corruption is fighting back when you attempt to fight corruption, those who are out to be corrupt will always want to fight back. So in the same vein, we expect that, but we're not going to be deterred, we are not going to be discouraged, and we are very, very optimistic that Nigeria has very, very many hundreds of thousands of concerned, capable, reasonable people that will listen to this. You see, all it takes is try to identify the right people. They're there. Most people feel a little bit timid to come out and say, here I am. But when you fish them out and encourage them to participate, I always, against the risk of immodesty, I always cite myself as an example. All my life in the public service, as a bureaucrat, as a civil servant, I never dreamt of picking party politics. But when people realized that we have something to offer, they started calling, agitating. In fact, it started from my former students. They formed an association. They said, look, you can't just retire and go without, we've seen what you've given us in the system, we see the commitment and so on. That's how it started. And they kept pressurizing. I mentioned it maybe the other time, I've mentioned many places. The person who broke the camel's back was the late Damasan in Kano. He once sent for me. He said, Ibrahim, why are you dragging your feet when people are asking you to come and serve the society? I said, sir, I haven't the money. Today in Nigeria, if you want to contest election, even if it is councillor, he said, shut up. If you have people, you have wealth. Go and answer them. That's how it started. I voluntarily retired after serving for about 26 years, rising through the ranks from the classroom teacher up to permanent secretary. So I think it's doable. I will be the last person to believe that we will not succeed. There are a lot of people like that out, and we will agitate. All we are doing now, first of all, is to advocate, do a lot of advocacy, do a lot of public enlightenment, let Nigerians know that you have no moral right to complain. All this hardship, difficulty, lack of economic power to get the 3 meals on the table and so, you haven't the moral right to complain if you do not come up to participate. Participating meaning one, get properly registered. On the day of election, come out to elect. The other time I came here, I drew our attention to the fact that we have 93 million registered voters, and I think they are all living. It's not fake. But since 1999 to date, we have never registered up to 40 million people coming out to vote. Why is 50 million? They're all there. So we need to mobilize them to come out if the number is all out. And We advocate for the right people. And again, the parties as well.
Yeah. Well, one of the issues which we'd like to get your attention on about is also this tax bill. Magwell interviewed the tax man himself on hard copy, which of course we get perspective on that one.
Yeah.
So could you tell us then, because it came across, or still does come across to a number of people, when they heard the northern governors kicking against it, after which NEC made their recommendations, of which the presidency responded. They think that the northern leaders are opposed to this, even though perhaps it might be tantamount to painting the whole region with one brush, because there are other people who in the same region have thought otherwise, saying, nope, we need to have a look at some of these things. What is your impression, or the League's impression, if I may, on that matter?
I think our impression is that, you see, democracy is about engagement, is about carrying the people. Politics is about people. I'm very surprised that in spite of the position of the National Economic Council, the president is still insisting, let it go to the National Assembly. If I were him, I would invite them. I haven't the details of word by word of the bill, but the general impression created, interpretation by experts, is about particularly the issue of the VAT. See, VAT is about a tax on consumers. And when you talk of consumers, they are all over the place, all over the Federation. And the argument has been, if you are saying all those paying the VAT, and the VAT being collated by the headquarters of the various agencies, companies, industries, which are not spread all over the Federation, then that means you are denying the benefit of the tax out of the VAT from consumer that is far away from the center of the collection of the VAT taxes. So this is the basic argument. And I think, unfortunately, initially when the northern governors met and made their position, it may sound too regional, too sentimental, and I probably did not want to see it that way. Fortunately for them, the vice president, who is the constitutional chairman of the National Economic Council, called a meeting. And it was a unanimous decision of all the 36 governors at that place. I still wonder, because the National Economic Council is not advisory.
Pardon me to jump in.
It's constitutional.
But for you, because you are in a unique position.
Yeah.
Now, your response is going to be important in terms of how others to see this. You've been a governor, so decision making is not new or strange to you.
Absolutely.
You've been a lawmaker, so you also understand processes of bills and how all of those things work. You've been a minister of education, who should be understanding certain things. So should your default mode be that of, on a political angle, or you should say, okay, wait a minute, chances are that people could be political about this and not actually understand what is the devil is in the detail.
No, you see, make a reference to my time as a governor or minister. When I was governor for 8 years, there was no time I sent any bill to the State Assembly without discussing it out of the chambers. First of all, we tried to engage the stakeholders. I established a 50 wise men consultative forum for 8 years, and it's a collection of different categories of people. Any policy, any program, especially bills that will turn out to be laws, before we send it to the State Assembly, we discuss at the stakeholders meeting. Then I invite, first of all, the relevant committee from the State Assembly. We discuss it. Then in the end, I always invite the State Assembly, the 40 of them. We meet every month. At the end of every month, I meet all the 40 of them, including the opposition, the 12 PDP members of the State Assembly. We always discuss out of the chamber. So by the time my bill goes to the State Assembly, it's virtually understood by all members of the State Assembly. And that is exactly what I expect to be replicated at the center. Mr. President should cultivate this. In fact, it was so sad. For the 4 years I was in the Senate, I advocated this. I was asking questions. I asked the President of the Senate, when do the members meet Mr. President? In fact, I was so worried that I will tell you that I met the then Chief of Staff. I made a proposal I said, please advise Mr. President. We are partners in progress in making this nation to move forward. The division of legislature and executive does not mean we are apart. It's just between like the wife and the husband if they don't cooperate. And as such, my feeling is that the takeoff point by Mr. President was wrong. I expected him to have consulted widely. I expected him to have reached out to the governors because they are major stakeholders. And if that had been done, all this exposure of some governors or even the National Economic Council objecting to it, and you still say let it go to the National Assembly and there will be public hearing. And so this is, as far as I'm concerned, is grandstanding. And I think it doesn't speak well of the procedure of making the laws. There should be some consultations. That's my feeling.
Some people will say, you know, first and foremost, I had, as my colleague did say, I had an engagement, an interview with the chairman of the Presidential Tax Reform Committee, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, on Friday night. Interesting, and I would highly recommend that interview to you. I think you should listen to it. As I will to all of our viewers, you know, who are, you know, listening to us right now. It's a shame that we're not able to play some of the tracks there.
That's right.
And very pointed questions were asked. From what we could deduce, because I also haven't read the bills. There are 4 of them before the National Assembly, and he did admit that a lot of them are bulky. But he says that he believes that this stance of the northern governors and even that of NEC has come up from a place of distrust, not because anybody has read that bill. Because, as a matter of fact, he says that all of the governors or all of the states actually stand at an advantage with the new proposition that, you know, they are proposing with VAT. I mean, he's somebody who is very experienced in the tax world, and even before now, he had recommended that it should be a consumption tax. States where these consumptions are made should be rewarded for the economic activities that take place in their state. And he says that's precisely what this reform does. So he says that there are 2 difficult places where, you know, they thought they were going to have problems. One was with Lagos State, which currently gets a little additional benefit as a result of the way it is currently shared, derivation, because of the fact the headquarter effect, which the governors have made reference to. And the second is the proposition to the federal government that they should take 10% instead of the 15% out of which is what they normally get, to make sure that all the states get what they would normally, they don't get less than what they would have gotten on a normal day as a result of this, but that there is an encouragement for them to take more, you know, to be more intentional about the economic activity that goes on within their own states. He said it was at the NEC meeting on that particular day, and that there was engagement. So do you think, I want to ask him, you know, how this could have come up. He says what he believes is that because there are 4 different bills, what he believes is that somebody must have picked up one bill, saw something somewhere, and did not read the rest of it, and just went to town, you know, with that particular suspicion, and that is basically what they now have to deal with. But that anyone who reads the bills will be wondering, where is this conflict coming from?
Well, I think, much as I appreciate this, it's good the chairman of the Tax Reform Committee came on board. I'm surprised that if he was at the NEC meeting, and still the NEC came up with a position that this bill be withdrawn, and the president is insisting, and that's very reckless. I mean, it's one of 2 things. Either he did not make his case very clear to the NEC meeting, or the NEC understood him, but they still said, let's advise the president to put on hold and let us understand all of this. So I think the problem now is not necessarily the content of the bill, the procedure. You see, in democracy, you must be seen to carry the people along. And I'm sure in the interest of the president himself, it's one thing to have the technical explanation that probably they were not understood, and the states are probably going to benefit more from all this and so on, and they single out one out of the 4 bills. it is the duty of Mr. President to listen to his immediate advisors are the governors. And it seems he's not carrying them along.
So, but that's interesting because the governors are different also from the National Assembly. Members of the National Assembly, interestingly, 2 weeks ago, I also got to speak with a member of the National Assembly who, interestingly, is in opposition. And I asked him, you know, at that time NEC had made the recommendation, and I asked him, you know, if he thought NEC should withdraw. I mean, if he thought the president should withdraw, and he said no. Because he says the governors have stakes in the National Assembly, and if they feel very strongly about it, their influence on their members should be strong enough to be able to quash this.
No, I think that shouldn't be the way it should be, because it's not going to be in the interest of our democracy and respect of the rule of law and respect for the presidency as well. If, for example, you say, okay, let the governors now go and start talking to their legislators. If I'm not interested in the bill, I will ask my legislators, please kill it. Those who would want it, please make sure it survives. I think that shouldn't be the way it is. Already, the pronouncement by the National Economic Council has created suspicion in the entire bill. If I were Mr. President, the President can withdraw any bill at any stage, so long as it has not reached the final third reading and approval.
Yeah, but don't forget, sir, that when we talk about this country, we have 19 northern governors. 19 northern governors is not exactly, it's not half of the NEC. They're majority of the NEC. I assume that when decisions are taken in NEC, they are put to vote. I don't think, for my 8 years in the National Economic Council, there was no time when we had to go into vote. We're all responsible people. At that level, I don't think issues has ever gotten to the point of voting. So they never put anything to vote?
No, we never did. To the best of my knowledge, for 8 years in the National Economic Council, we've never voted.
The point I'm trying to...
It is always a consensus understanding. The position of the National Economic Council. And that is exactly where the fear is. Even if it were so, for that same reason of voting against whatever, for that same reason, why the president ought to have invited all of them. So all the experts.
It is interesting.
The question of the quarrel.
So it is interesting. I mean, I think it will be up to the president and his advisors, because some people will say that is still not something that has been ruled out, that the president meeting with the governors, certainly. But when I spoke with this gentleman, behind the scenes, I asked him, you know, how did your presentation go? And he said, were you surprised? Because he did tell me about the presentation he was making at NEC 2 weeks before. So I asked him, you know, how did that go? And how come, you know, the resolution was still withdrawn? And he said he himself was shocked, because after he made his presentation with the governors, there was a loud round of applause. You know, there was a loud round. As a matter of fact, when he was speaking with me in the interview, he did say that what he thought they were going to get as members of that tax reform committee was commendation. That he thought they were going to be, you know, praised for the ingenuity for what they had done.
One typical thing is that if you get carried away by the applaud, even if you talk rubbish, in the end, people will say, ah, good.
Is that what happens?
No.
I'm just
drawing your attention to the fact that he was carried away by the applauding after his presentation. The applauding does not mean all what you have said has been accepted. All I'm saying is that, unfortunately, it is the procedure. I have no problem with all the details, the technical issue, as the gentleman in charge has said, states are even going to be benefiting more. So it is the understanding, even if the governors understand, even if his advisors understand, and the general public and the legislators do not understand, you are still having a problem. So I think the procedure seemed to give an impression that the president has disregarded the position of the governors, and it is not in the interest of our collective responsibilities are running the country.
Yeah, but the governors themselves, let's look at this. If they had a problem with this, because the procedure normally is the president has something to do. From what we understand, even the statement of the president said that the tax reform committee had engaged
engaged
far and wide, had engaged with stakeholders, had engaged with what they call that now, had engaged with the private sector, which is where a lot of these taxes will be coming from, had engaged extensively.
Which was
you know, so if the governors had a problem and felt that they had not been carried along, was it right for them to have first of all met as northern governors first and then hold a press conference? Weren't they putting the president on the spot and tying his hands behind his back and forcing him to do something when they know that the bill had already gone to the National Assembly?
I quite agree that was also part of the wrong procedure. I faulted that position. They wouldn't have done that. If I were there, I would have insisted, look, let's not go onto the street. If we discuss and this is our understanding, let's get to Mr. President. And I'm sure Mr. President will always be listening to them. And more so, worse still, the General Council involving all the governors met and the same position was proposed. I think this is...
Yeah, but at that point, some people said that was a fait accompli.
Well, I think the position we have now is what you call the damage control procedure, because the general understanding is that even truth, if you say it at the wrong time, to the wrong people, with the wrong approach, then you have already lost the credibility of the truth. So I am not quarreling with the content of the bill, and I'm sure from the explanation, as you said, given by the chairman of the tax reform, it's quite clear. But it is the procedure. Unfortunately, the suspicion has already been created. I only pray the National Assembly will do the needful, and a lot of understanding and lobbying, that's the assembly language, will be done by the presidency to explain all of these things and reach out to the governors forum as well.
All right, let's equally get your perspective on this new information and alert actually I was raised by the army about security in the northwest region. They're warning the country, saying, look, in this new terror group operating within that Kebbi Sokoto axis. And I do remember, I think the former governor of Kaduna State, he tried to rally his colleagues to see how they can pull together to ensure they address that headlong. But it appears as though this is defying a lot of things. How come a new terror group, a good thing that's been spotted though, but give us your impression about why you think this appears to be the case. I don't, maybe not intractable.
I think unfortunately, Chamberlain, this is giving us an impression that our intelligence gathering is still below average. Because if the intelligence had been up and doing, from all the agencies, then this thing would have been discovered much, much earlier than now. I think the new insurgents, what do they call them? Is it
Kurawa,
Kularawa or whatever?
Yeah.
And they've already started attacking communities, giving them all kinds of nightmares, collecting levies and so on. I think we've had enough of the insurgents that we are battling with for them to have come in, and we understand they are coming in from the neighboring countries. From Niger, what I hear that they come in from Niger, from the borders of Sokoto, Kebbi, and they hit our own kind of. I think we need to do a lot of what people always say, restructuring of the architecture of the security.
So you've been a governor. So what would you have done differently to address this?
Well, my immediate thing, one, I always meet with the security committee every month, and I directed all the local governments by the end of every month. In fact, to tie it down to make sure the meetings hold, we fixed the last Thursday of every month. The state security committee will meet, the local government security committee will meet, and they report back, whatever. And I'm surprised as well that, you see, as a governor, every morning I receive security brief from the DSS. And if as a governor I'm receiving this, I'm sure Mr. President will be receiving similar daily briefing from all the security agencies.
But if I could jump in, do you agree with those who say, look, no matter what security agencies do, if poverty is not addressed in any part of the country, it will be a problem. This is where the governors come in here.
No, certainly, the issue of poverty is largely part of it. But I still believe, I explained the other time I came, I am advocating for this same community policing that I've been agitating all over the place. These insurgents, the immediate people that see them and know where they are coming from are the villagers themselves. If you don't coordinate them in terms of community watch, in terms of guiding them and training them how to do all this intelligence gathering, if they hit a village, the villagers will wait to take a phone and call the local government headquarters or the state headquarters before the police respond. These people have done their damages and gotten away. So I think what we require really, issue of poverty is a long-term issue. Certainly the governments, both at local government and at state level, have a lot of responsibility. And in fact, it's one of the issues the League is trying to address, that we must insist the governments at the state and the local government do the right thing in terms of prioritization of people-oriented programs, people-oriented projects. We're going to do the bogus thing, as I mentioned the other time, when you build flyovers of billions of naira. How many people have cars to fly all the flyovers? When people are looking for the best things to do, basic health care, good school environment, and the like. So I think I quite agree. The state governments and the local governments have this very serious challenge, and poverty is part of the problem. But I still believe that if governments will initiate proper community intelligence gathering, we have done that. It's practical. I've said it a number of times. We did with the Hisba Guards, the community. We set up a consultative forum, about 12 in every ward, and they selected those who will be doing the intelligence gathering, and there was peace. In fact, up to today, ask any average man in Kano, the people trust this arrangement far more. The local, the traditional institution was greatly involved. We gave them responsibilities. We empowered them. I made sure every local government bought a very big jeep for its local government district head, so they will be able to be moving around. And with that, the Emir of Kano made it mandatory on all district heads to every week make a report.
How were they fueling the vehicle?
The local government was funding it. I'm sure you know I gave my local government on tier of their funds, so they were fueling them, they were maintaining them, they were funding the committees, they were funding the community policing, all of this. They were doing it. And there was peace. And the report kept coming in, and before you know it, at the state level, we are aware the Security Council or the Security Committee in the state will handle it. So I think one of the major things to do is to improve the issue of intelligence gathering. Unfortunately, the number of the police, the army, the military is not enough for them to be all over the place. But if the state government coordinates it, as we did when we established the Hisba Guards in Kano, we invited the police, we invited the military to train them. For 1 year, we were training them, giving them the basic rudiments of how to gather intelligence and report back. And they were doing it effectively. They were not carrying even a stick, not to talk of carrying any weapons, of guns or whatever. And people trusted them. And they were sharing the information with them. Through intelligence gathering, you will be able to identify informants who are working with the insurgents. But if the villagers are not guided to form a very coordinated reporting system, I've seen some governors out of anger, they will be saying, please let people go and defend themselves. How will they defend themselves? Have you organized them how to defend themselves? That was very outrageous and very unfortunate. So I think if we really want to address this issue, number one thing is government, both federal and state, must work together to improve intelligence gathering through community watch, through community policing. And up till now, we are not able to implement some of these things. There has been a lot of documents, we produce a lot of papers and guidance, and we've done it.
Just quickly, I mean, I know how passionate you feel about the issue of security, but let me quickly ask you this one as a wrap up, what you make of the reversal of the age limit for tertiary institutions?
Well, see, it's very unfortunate. You see, immediately the minister made the pronouncement, that was the former minister, I came out and explained. It is part of the national policy on education. I'm surprised. The new minister made it his first assignment to revert it. He probably didn't consult the professional, didn't look at the national policy on education. You see, what we don't seem to understand and know is that every curriculum, from primary up to the university, is prepared with the age in mind. This does not mean there aren't exceptions in every field. You can get a 13, 14-year child who can go and perform into the university. We've had 10-year child, 10-year-old child performing. But you always look at the majority. So I am surprised, and it's most unfortunate if this is becoming an issue. It's already part and parcel of the national policy on education, right from the time we were on to 7 years. I attended 7-year primary education, 5 years secondary school, 2 years in the higher school certificate, the HSC, and then 3 years in the university. By the time you add all of this, you're getting to 18. The age of getting to the primary school officially should have been 6 years. Of course, many got to school by 5 years. That does not mean you will abandon the curriculum. The curriculum, as we all know, ask anybody who is versed in curriculum development, we take the age into consideration. That does not mean a 16-year-old going to the university will not perform. No. What we want is proper education. To get proper education, it's not passing examination that is education and getting the certificate. No. To be a properly educated person, go through the syllabus, go through the curriculum. And the curriculum talks about the age issue. I'm surprised, really, this trivial issue of national policy will be reduced to... people are saying the minister was removed. I don't know how true it is because of this age thing. And the new one that came, probably capitalizing on that grandstanding, that I have reversed it to 16.
I guess we're still going to, we've not heard the last of this matter then.
No, some of us will really reach out to them. I assure you.
We'll look forward to their response after you do reach out. We'll have to anchor at that point. Senator Ibrahim Shekarau, Chairman, League of Northern Democrats and former Minister of Education himself, a former governor of Kano State. Always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you very much, Hamlin. It's a pleasure being here.
All right, Business Morning comes up now.